Welcome to Arts Alive, sponsored by the Arts Alliance of Yamhill County, produced by Meadowlake Studios. I'm Mike from Meadowlake Studios.
I'm Liz from Meadowlake Studios. Since 2006, we've produced arts and culture shows documenting the rich cultural scene in Yamhill County.
For 19 years, Linda Philippi was host of Arts Alive, and it was a premier TV show covering arts and culture in our county. It was a real loss a few years ago when she decided to retire. We were honored when the Arts Alliance asked us to carry on the Arts Alive tradition.
Another of the Arts Alliance's sponsored programs is the Art Harvest Studio Tour. The tour has been running for 26 years. We have been tour artists ourselves. We do the tour some years, and some years we take it off, and new artists appear. The tour seems to renew itself.
We looked through our archives and found Meadowlake Studios did a tour show in 2009 with 2009 equipment. That year, we both were tour artists.
We interviewed ourselves, our much younger selves, and 9 other tour artists: Brad Spear, Jeannie Comerford, Marilyn Offler. Brad, Jean, and Marilyn are on the tour again this year.
We interviewed Blythe Eastman, who showed with me that year, Dee Boyles, Marilyn Higginson, Rory, and John Casey, a wonderful artist who is no longer with us.
We were honored to be on the tour with these talented artists. Welcome to Arts Alive's look at the 2009 Art Harvest Studio Tour.
Let's see, I started in '99 after I graduated from grad school, and so 10 years now. And now I feel like I can throw anything I want to. I also like the functionality of clay. Like, I can use virtually everything I make in some way. I had a show at the winery here in town that was all hanging on a wall, you know, because their space had 0 flat, you know, they had a counter that they served wine on and everything else was wall. And, you know, so I had to make things that for the first time had to like sit this way, not this way. And they all function. You can set them on a table also. You know, that's another thing for me. I couldn't just make something that hangs on a wall. It'll still, you know, sit on a table and work as like a bowl or whatever, but then on the wall it looks like more of an art piece. Like, so that was a really fun challenge that happened this spring. This used to be a circle on the wheel, and then just gently stretched across a table over time, you know, let it dry out a little bit and then pull it one direction or the next, and you get, you know, that swirl that used to be round is now stretched into an oval. Most of my friends who live in Portland don't get to see this kind of environment and this, you know, cows in the field next door all that often and goats on the other side and all that stuff. So, you know, I like inviting them out here for that, and then if they want to buy some pots, even better. Yeah, we've basically converted our living room into a gallery space a lot of times. I mean, it's got furniture in it, but, you know, we just clear everything out and put the shelves like this along the wall, and then just put everything out, change the lighting in the room, and all of a sudden it's a gallery space, which is great. You can't really see what's the interest of our property when you drive up to the house. It's a flat, plain hill. There's a house up there. It's red. There's some trees. Yeah. Then you turn around and look toward the valley, and when you're in the living room looking out over the deck, it's like, oh, I see why you live here now. Well, the plan's already in works up here. I have a gas kiln sitting in the garage right now. So I need to build it a shed, which out over there, up the hill, just past the raised beds, is where that's going to happen. And that's going to be soon, the next 6 weeks. And then once I can fire everything at home from start to finish, then it's a matter of how much I fire that, figure it out, and then how long I get driven nuts until I need to go back to salt. At which point, right down there on the lower part of that hill is where the salt kiln's going to go. There'll be flames shooting out the top of one while we talk about where the other one's going to go. Absolutely. I like how it affects glazes more than just the clay body. I also like not to have to glaze everything. So, you know, you can just leave it bare at certain points and it'll still be good. And then but you know, I have a couple of glazes that look fine in reduction, but are magic in salt. Like, they get crystals forming in them, they have a little bleed to them, they carbon trap, they do all these great things that just because you're throwing salt into the kiln makes it happen. you know, and you could probably formulate that for reduction. Way too much work. That sodium just helps all those things change flavor, change style, change everything. It's cool to have people come out here, and more than anything, you know, not just the artwork, because I think I make cool stuff. I think people who buy my stuff think it's cool. I think there are a lot of other people who are great artists in this valley who make great things, and I can send them to their house knowing that they make cool stuff. The art's one great thing, but just the valley itself is worth the sights.
I do a lot of in plein air work, which I absolutely adore. And I do a lot out by myself, but I've also joined a few in plein air groups. The filbert orchard in the back that caught my attention, but at the same time it was a cherry orchard blooming in front of it that I wanted to protege and bring it up, and the pond way down there, and Mount St. Helens in the background and stuff. And it's a place up the road. A lot of the people who do come on the tour have been in the lavender fields, and they have been on the wine tours, so they do recognize certain things. I always desired to be an artist, and I wasn't allowed to be in art classes because my drawing wasn't good enough. And so when my kids were little and my husband didn't think I could put a whole sentence together without being interrupted, then he sent me out to an art class. And I got hooked. Well, I just had a 6-week course that first time, and then it just was sporadic while my kids were growing up. And once they got to college, it was, I'm hook, line, and sinker, and if I don't paint, I get crabby. Yeah, for years I was telling everybody I painted, 12, 15 paintings a year. And then I stopped to count, and it was a lot more. The last time I counted, it was like 22 to 25 a year. I had been very involved in plein air work. Generally, I do it all winter long because we meet twice a month to paint out. Multnomah Falls, we were there in February, and there was like 4 inches of ice on the ground, and the wind was blowing. But it was absolutely wonderful. It's good to be out with other artists. It's in plein air at Lincoln City, Newport, and they go out every day for a week. That was the most impressive thing, to go down groups up here, and then to go down there where there were literally hundreds of people painting. I've done a lot of umbrella ones, and my now 16-year-old, she was 14 at the time, came up to me and says, "Grandma, your umbrella paintings are nice, but they're boring." And so I says, "Well, you know where my umbrellas are. Show me not boring." So they grabbed my umbrellas out of the closet and headed out front, and they started doing all of this kind of stuff, and it was really fun. This is a photograph that I took in England, and my husband and I were having coffee, and she came into and she was just so herself. She was so relaxed, and she came in for coffee and to read a book and have some quiet time. And she came in her bedroom slippers and her leggings and her pink jammies with a yellow sweater and a black coat. But she was, I just loved the way she moved, and she was so confident, and she didn't care what people thought. You know, she was just being herself.
I really enjoy the freshness of clay and the fact that nobody's hands but mine are involved in making it. I've probably made several thousand bears. I could probably make another couple thousand, and I'd still be learning. What I do when these things are dry is initially I will fire them in an electric kiln. I'll take the pieces out to the north side of the barn where I have a cylinder made of brick. And I'll put the pieces in there and bury them in sawdust or hay and light it on fire. When it stops smoking and I can touch the lid without being burned, I open it up and see what happened. It's another thing that feels a little bit like a Zen practice. It's letting go. Every so often I make pieces that I can't let go of right away. I want to get to know them a little more. And what I do now is I just tell them we can be really good friends until art harvest. But the people who come in are just, they're from all over, all over the world. They come in, they have comments, some of them tell their stories. Some of them just have had fascinating stories they talk about. Doing the educational tours with the kids, there you have people, unless they're in high school, who aren't afraid, who are more interested in finding out new things rather than being cool. And that's, boy, what a gift to be able to work with wide open, curious minds. Oh, I did a few bears where I rolled the clay out on scraps of eyelet fabric and lace to get the more sensitive, sensitive kind of bears. And so the texture and the smoking kind of work really well together. Okay, I want to bend the body a little bit. I think it's going to be looking over her shoulder. Maybe it's heard a sound. Technically, I was the botanist on a project where we banded and wing tagged bald eaglets. There was one. We were located on a Besnard Lake, which has a lot of islands in it. And most of the time we got around on a little canoe with a motor in the back. We were going past one island when probably a newly on its own bear spotted us. Definitely not full grown, definitely not very wise in the ways of the world. And he followed us along the shore of the island, just staring as hard as he could. And then it was almost as if you could see the light bulb go off, and he remembered he was supposed to hide. And he galloped ahead a little bit and dove behind a tree that was about 8 inches in diameter. And he knew he was hidden, so he continued staring as hard as he could. Getting to where he's going to sag if I take the ropes off to do what I need to do. But, he needs to come up. He needs to have a lot more height in his hind end. See, that's more how the hind end ought to go. But I can't build it up or the whole thing will start to just kind of sag like a overcooked noodle. It makes it a real, kind of like a win-win-win, being a tour artist. Showing here, I'm able to work and produce. Oh, a win-win-win-win. I get to hang out with Mike and Liz, whom I rarely see otherwise. I get to meet all these cool people who come in, and I get to sell things. Part of what I like about clay is being able to keep it really fresh.
I usually sit here and on the wheel and do work while the tour's going. Folks come in and I greet them, and a lot of times people can look around it, and I just continue to work. Both Blythe and I will answer questions, do demos. I love to be able to do a demonstration when folks come, and I'll be working, and they'll be looking at the work that's around on the walls, and I can show them how I make that. I really enjoy doing the tour with Blythe, because I do flat work and wall work, and I use slabs just like she does, but I tend to be real shy about sculpture in the round, and Blythe is a master at that, and so I'm encouraged to step out of my comfort zone and make things. I think one year I made a series of sculptures I called the Politician series. Another year I made some rhinoceroses, and that was a case where Blythe said, "No, you've got to you've got to go look at a book. You can't just make it up. You got to go look at a book." And so I got this picture. I went on the web, on the internet, and got a picture of a rhinoceros or two. And as it was, I still couldn't bring myself to make the whole critter. I just made the rhinoceros head to hang from a wall.
Welcome to my studio. As you can see, I'm a painter, but I also make felt. I made it for a show at the Contemporary Crafts Gallery. They had a show called Good Bird, Bad Bird, and that idea just captured my attention. This is called Wardrobe of a Lazy Hawk. wolf in sheep's clothing sort of idea. If you were a hawk and you were lazy and you wanted to eat without having to work very hard, without having to hunt very hard, you might try to disguise yourself as the thing you wanted to eat. It's really a hood. It's got the same kind of design that a hood for a hawk would have, those people who raise hawks and falcons and use them for sport. So I had this little fantasy of a hawk pulling this on with its claws, with its talons, and walking out into a field of Canada geese to get dinner. This is pretty close to life size, I think. That was my plan. I'm hoping someday to make a full-size condor, which, you know, is about 4 feet tall. That would be pretty good size. This is felt. So this is all just felt, just like a hat. It's the same process, actually, as a hat. You just lay the wool out on a form. In this case, the form was the shape of a condor head, and you felt it. So this is some of the things you'll see when you come to visit my studio.
I love the intensity of being outside. You know, it's exciting, it's very fulfilling. Far more than just, for me, than just sitting in a studio doing a painting. And it's also very challenging to me to work outside, because it's much harder to do, because you've got all these things going on, sorting out and simplifying and figuring out how it's going to work on canvas is really quite the challenge. We lived in Alaska for a long time, and so I started, wanting to get serious about doing my own work. And then we moved down to Southern California, and to Laguna Beach, no less, where it's a center for plein air painting. And I had never heard of the California Impressionists before until I got down there, and of course, so then that's when I started started doing oils, and gradually just doing this now. Quit being a graphic designer and just paint.
I don't know what I would do if I weren't a painter or sculptor or printmaker, whatever it is I'm doing. I'm an artist, working in a variety of media. I'm intrigued by what different media can do, or what one can do with the various media. I work in a variety of styles, because sometimes what I start out with will determine the direction it takes. This painting, for example, is one that I started with just a general idea of the late summer, early fall light falling on the grasses. It seems to me that it would be best developed using a somewhat abstracted approach to it, so that it isn't a picture of the fall fields, but using the color range and somewhat the composition to convey that idea.
Talk about what people see when they come out.
Well, when they enter in, as you can see, they first see this gorgeous home from 1890. They'll be able to come and go into the studio and see where I work. I don't know what I'll have set up. I might have, because I do teach photography, so I might have a studio set up like I do when I teach, and so they can actually maybe hopefully do some hands-on, work. They'll be able to come through the house, actually, itself, and that's what's going to be turned into a gallery. There's so much beauty out there that we don't see and that escapes us. I think most people just look at the world, they don't see it. So for macro photography, all the way to landscape, to I'm fascinated with life photography, and I think that's probably where I'm heading toward more and more, just a documentation of everyday life as it really is. My photography is just a gut level response. It really truly is. And my best work often is just those spur of the moment, gut level, stop. And bless his heart, my husband stops and he backs up. I'm working on a project called My Little Town, and I want to start showing that. And it's just a documentation of life in a little town. And I'm doing one on Beauty Beyond Borders, it's called, and it's just a documentation of life beyond our borders and how beautiful it truly is. Then also just our beauty beyond our own little box that we've created. That's a border that we have to cross. And so I want to do that. I want to start showing those. I haven't showed them yet. You do art, right? And you want to share it. And so you try to find out all these avenues to be able to share your work. Because each one of my photographs really, truly have a story.
Okay, so how long have you been on this for?
This will be my 3rd year, and enjoy it immensely. Love to meet all the people, children, adults, just people out having a good time. And everybody's so happy and interested. Well, mostly I paint with acrylics, and I've been exploring computer art, which has been really fascinating and challenging, because there's a lot to learn with that. And now I'm taking it and combining the computer and then taking pictures that I have taken and put them on the computer and paint them on the computer. So it's another image, and then I print it out on canvas and then paint more on top of it, which has been like really fun.
And do you have your computer set up when you...
Yes, and then I'll have demonstrations. So you have your pencils, pens, pastels, oils. So these will all, with the pressure of this tool, it will act like like whatever I want it to act like, either a colored pencil or a crayon or pastel. And then this one over here are all the different types of brushes that I can use with, if I choose a oil paint, or this one's on cloner. And I have it on impressionistic cloner, so the paintbrush kind of will act like if Monet was painting it, kind of random. Here I'll go back and I can change to different kinds of medium. I'll try a marker, same color, but it's gonna, acts more like a pencil. I was always the kid that was so excited to get a new box of crayons, so I feel like I'm still playing.
I had envisioned them to be more white, but I think I'm liking this, and it just can represent maybe the staining of iron and other minerals, the effects of water and erosion. I'm primarily an oil landscape painter. That's what I've been showing for the last 3 years, and I'll have paintings this year as well, but I want to include more media that I've worked in, and I hope to have some of these pieces with the steel done for the tour. The house is really a gallery for me to display all of the work that I've done and am doing currently. And it's part of my whole expression as an artist. I don't create in a vacuum. I think of the environment that a work is going to live within, and try to make it a harmonious place for everything. I think that creativity in a person flows from the same headwaters, whether you're just working in one medium or several.
Yeah, I will do the tour at the kiln site again and go over the whole firing procedure. Because last year I had all the pictures, and even that the pictures were very helpful and people liked it too. Yeah. So there are so many works done in clay, and so many different types of firings. And wood firing, even though Oregon has the most number of kilns, wood firing kilns in the States, people still don't have a quite clear idea of what is involved and what kind of results you're getting. And even without any glazes, like these are no glazes, just clay flame and ash and inside the kiln atmosphere. Like wood firing, I like to keep things as natural as possible.
In 2009 and today, the Art Harvest Studio Tour is a great way to see beautiful Yamhill County wine country, meet interesting people, and see amazing art.
Yes, every year is different. We hope you enjoyed our retrospective look at Art Harvest Studio Tour 2009. Thank you for watching.